Hello and welcome to the Not My Job Pod. My name is Emily Gant and I am your host. Today I am doing a solo episode because as I'm learning through this process of creating a podcast, it's not always smooth sailing with scheduling, and because I'm new at this and it's just a hobby. People have lives. So unfortunately, the two people who were going to record this week needed to reschedule, but they're still coming on. So that is super exciting and all good. But I decided to do a little solo catch up, just kind of thoughts and things that I've learned so far along the way. Um, I think when I started this, I expected, I mean, I wrote on my goal sheet that I wanted 200 followers was like this number I had in my head because everything I've read right now is that it's really difficult on social media. Not on YouTube. I wasn't not looking at metrics there. If you're watching that on, if you're watching this on YouTube, but on social media, like promoting the podcast and especially Instagram. And I thought like, okay, 200, like that would be insane because people don't follow now. That's just not how social media works anymore. It's all about views. And yeah, now across platforms, like we're looking at 10,000 accounts, 2.5 million views. That's not even counting YouTube. The podcast itself has over 1,000 downloads. And that I think was kind of overwhelming when it happened. Because I said to myself, I was like, oh, I'll try this out. I'll do it for 10 weeks. We'll see, either what people respond to things that I'm saying, if they think it's interesting or not. And yeah, it's been a fun learning experience. And I think that I'm going to continue it longer than 10 weeks for sure. I actually have guests queued up for longer than 10 weeks, but kind of pivoting when I have in my head, oh, it has to go a certain way, and then it doesn't, still showing up and just kind of running my mouth like I am in this episode. Because I think there's, a pressure to perform all the time. And I think something that, Blair Thurston specifically said in our last episode, we were both just talking about like how a lot of us, especially I don't know, it probably goes beyond millennial women, but we pressure ourselves to be on all the time and we create all of these goals and achievements and benchmarks that we want to hit. But in reality, it's like nothing matters, which is also like a really liberating statement. But, you just have to remember that tomorrow I could delete all of this and it would, maybe it wouldn't be gone if somebody like saved a video, but like it would be done. And that's okay too. Like tomorrow I can decide that anything. You can literally decide anything at any time. Tomorrow I could wake up and decide that I want to be a carpenter, and then I could just quit my job and go study to be a carpenter. And, I'm not going to do that because I like my job. But I think sometimes when I sign up for things, I put like all these like goals and ideas and benchmarks for success. And then even when I surpass whatever benchmark that I created for myself, I'm still not like taking a moment to just be like, that's cool. You created a thing and people like it, and that's enough. That is enough. But I think there's this pressure of being on all the time, both in the online world that we live in and in our own lives. And social media is really interesting. I think I found a new respect for influencers, for people who do this regularly, for people who post online, because, you might see it as an outsider and you're like, wow, that's really cringe, and then not say anything. And I would say, that's great. Don't say anything. Just think that to yourself and stay quiet. But it's scary to be seen, and not just seen, but also like called out and corrected. And yeah, I think it's a skill in itself to be able to like read the comments and be like, oh, that's not so nice, or oh, I was wrong. And I'm somebody who doesn't always like I don't think anyone likes being wrong, but I particularly don't like it when I'm wrong. But it is also one of my favorite things when I'm wrong and then somebody corrects me. And then I do take a step back and I think about it and I'm like, oh, okay, wait a second, I do agree. And that was something that I was discussing with a friend recently because it was actually an inspiration for a reel that I did about whether or not we should be using the term first world or second world anymore. And we were talking about it and he was like, no way, like it's still a term that I'm going to use. And we talked about it. We agreed to disagree. It was a great conversation. And then like 2 days later, he's like, actually, I thought about it and you're right. I was just being stubborn. And I was like, man, I do that all the time where someone says something that's just completely opposite to what I think, and I do just like dig my heels in. And that's not to say though that there's loads of like there are loads of other instances where I dig my heels in and I do maintain my opinion. So it's not that I'm always stubborn all the time. But I think social media has definitely like brought that to the forefront where I can actually see that happening. Where, somebody might say, oh, what you said wasn't totally accurate. And then I have to be like, oh, wait, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. And then, yeah, exercise, as Blair said in our last episode, that muscle of discernment. And that's a valuable skill. So thank you to this process for teaching me that. But as far as social media goes, I think there's this pressure to post, create, grow, and it shouldn't send you into like a functional freeze if you're going to do it. Like anything, it should be fun. And so far it is fun, but there definitely have been times where I was like, "Oh no, I don't have anything to go out. Like I need to batch make content or something like that." And like in reality, it's like the world will keep turning. If you don't post, and if you never get another follower, it doesn't matter. Like it literally doesn't matter. And that sounds so obvious when I say it out loud, but it's just these apps are designed to like keep your dopamine running, and that is what happens is you just kind of get tunnel vision in it. And I guess I work in growth, but I don't work in social media at all. So this is my first time like dabbling in social media and like trying to learn how to write hooks and write things that get a lot of engagement and stuff like that. And it's been a learning experience in how that works. And yeah, I think it's all been a learning experience. But I do find it interesting. I was like, maybe this is a reflection of my greater anxiety or something because my Instagram algorithm is now showing me reels of people like other influencers or content creators that are getting fired from their jobs because their job realized that they were like filming or had an Instagram account, which most of these videos are like actually dumb. Like someone filmed themselves like setting up the cash register at their company and like basically like wrote a blueprint for how to rob the exact store that she works at. In that case, like, don't be dumb. But yeah, when those started showing up in my algorithm, I was like, is this some sort of anxiety that I have that I didn't even realize that I should have? But that's how good algorithms are at uncovering sort of just, I guess, things that you feel and then producing content that'll get some sort of emotional reaction from you. And that's both really cool and really terrifying to think about with social media. Because it's not really social media anymore. It's like content content watching and custom content. Really, it's like a TV show or something. It's not really social anymore. But I think, yeah, I just have to remind myself that what matters is connection, not performance metrics in this case. So actually, like the process of creating reels is just quite fun. Like it takes, 10 minutes and you just slap it together and then you post it and you're like, oh, that was funny. Or sometimes I post something, I'm like, oh, that wasn't that great, but other people think it's funny. And I don't know, it's still, yeah, remains to be seen because I do kind of question. I'm like, what do you want out of this? And also that's something I'm trying to work on, that I do think it's good to do things that don't have value or like don't have a point, because sometimes that leads to something else or something better, or just something more interesting or meeting someone cool. And actually that has happened for the first time. One of the upcoming episodes will be for the first time with someone I don't know personally. Actually, I have two scheduled with someone who I don't know personally. And I'm super excited about that because if not for Instagram, I wouldn't be in contact with this person. And I think it's going to be a really, really cool episode. And I'm really excited about it. And that's what I wanted out of this, was to talk to people who weren't like me and came from different backgrounds. And I think that's what I'm going to get out of that episode. And I think it's going to be really worthwhile. So I'm excited about it. And I think also when I think about what I want out of this, it's not so much about like brand building, because I've never been particularly interested. There was like a time for a moment where I dabbled in speaking at work conferences, and I do enjoy just like the process of public speaking. I think it's quite fun. But also, I feel like that is also, it's just a very saturated space with a lot of people who are very intelligent, if not more intelligent than me, which I can already hear a couple of my friends eye rolling, like, obviously you have things to say as well, but it just wasn't like getting me excited. So I don't think I'm going to do it anymore. I think you can be good at your job without developing like some sort of personal brand where, you're also a public speaker. It's about balance. And I think that was one that I had to cut. And then this is also like a separate outlet for that. But as far as what I want from this process is that I can build community and exercise the opportunity to practice self-awareness, in talking to people who have different perspectives. And also, I think as we talk more about things like the loneliness epidemic that we have in our societies, where people just feel more disconnected than ever, despite having more opportunities and methods to talk to each other than ever before. Yeah, I think connection's really important, and I recently did a project. I have a few friend groups here in Berlin, and I know that they would all like each other, but I think they're not friends because they just don't have that many opportunities where they cross paths. And so I brought a few groups together, and we did a like conversation exercise that got like progressively more, I guess, intimate and questioning throughout the activities. And I got a lot of really positive feedback from that, and that's what I wanted. And so I was really glad that, well, I was grateful that I had friends who, even if they hate that kind of thing, were still willing to do it for me, just on a random Saturday. It wasn't it wasn't my birthday. It wasn't like for something, but they were willing to just show up and give it a try and give me feedback on the event style, where we did different like almost like icebreaker games, but then further into conversation games. But that's something that maybe in the future I'd like to create some sort of community event where people can sign up for it knowing what they're signing up for, that it's like a conversation club in a way, and then come together and talk to each other. I think that would be a really cool thing. In my head as well, if you can sign up for like a gym class, you can sign up for like a row cycle or a hit class at a gym. It would be cool if you could just book 45 minutes into like a conversation class. And then you could just go in, have a chat with some people. It's structured, and then you leave and you feel like you either talked about something that you didn't expect to, or you found someone that you didn't expect to like. Not even from like a dating perspective, just like an open-minded talking to people. And then there's a firm end time. So if you don't actually like anyone, it's only 45 minutes and you get to leave. So I think we need more community spaces where there's opportunities for connection, because the way that our cities are set up nowadays, I think you always need to like find a friend to go to an event. And then it's sometimes hard if you're not an extrovert to just talk to random people. And I don't consider myself an extrovert, which makes a lot of my friends laugh because I have a lot of friends. I go out, I do a lot of things, but I do really value alone time as well to rest and recharge. But I think just because you're an introvert doesn't mean that you don't need community and you don't need people around. But anyway, it's always an eternal search for balance and finding that. And so I guess the long and the short of it is that I don't really have goals for this podcast anymore. And if there's a week that an episode doesn't come out, then that's fine. And that was almost going to be this week, but then I thought about it and I just felt like recording this. So it's not maybe going to be as polished as the other episodes, but that's okay too. But I think as well, trying to find a balance between work, creating this content, my social life, which is robust, and travel as well. I've been on 2 trips recently. I have 2 more planned coming up soon, and rest. And so I think finding that balance is something that I'm always eternally searching for, and it shifts and shapes into different forms of like what I need in a given moment. But there's definitely like what we think of as like the traditional guilt, reset, rest cycle where, you rest and you feel guilty, but if you don't rest, then you feel burnt out. And I don't necessarily I think that's an oversimplification, because if I'm doing things that bring me joy, then those don't burn me out. I think it's when I kind of give too much to something and then I feel like I've started a snowball and can't jump ship. That's when I get stressed. But in reality, the snowball that's running down the mountain is created by me, and it's not a real snowball, and I can just make it disappear if I want to. And that's really freeing as well. So for me, when I have too much going on, usually there needs to be like a reset day. I was talking to a friend recently about how I have scheduled do nothing days, and those actually aren't like self-care days. Those are literal do nothing days. So like I'm not journaling on that day. I am watching TV and, rotting or reading a book. Probably some sort of like long form content though, or like sitting in a park and reading a book all day. Like that'll be the day. And that always makes me feel infinitely better when there's just too much going on. But I haven't scheduled one of those in a while. I think I have one coming up in September. But also the self-care stuff, it still works. I brought out a journal that I hadn't used in a long time, then I felt a little bit better about it. Because yeah, there's just what a gift it is to have so many things that I want to do. I think that's kind of like the positive way to spin it, and that's really cool that there are so many things that I want to learn and do and try, and that I have the privilege of being able to learn, do, and try those things is incredible. But there's like that famous Sylvia Plath quote where she like imagines her life as a fig tree, and she's talking about how each fig like represents a different possible future, like love, career, travel, fame, adventure, and like she can't choose one path for fear of losing the others. And so she just watches like all the possibilities like wither and completely fall away. And I think that sort of decision paralysis is sometimes where I get stuck, that I'm like, okay, well, if I'm making this content, then I don't have time for a German class today. Or if I, go to the gym, then I can't meet a friend for lunch. And there's really no wrong choice as long as you're making a choice and as long as you're enjoying the choices that you make. But yeah, sometimes it's hard, especially in the era of watching everyone's life play out on the internet, where you kind of just everyone says you always see a highlight reel, but it's really true, because you see all these possibilities, but in reality you only have 24 hours in a day and you're sleeping for 8 of them, hopefully. Yeah, so I'll probably never learn how to, I'll probably never learn how to change a tire. Maybe I will. I don't know. But, it's not high on my to-do list. Would I like to be one of those people who like, I don't know, something breaks around the house and I could just fix it? Yeah, that'd be a really cool skill to learn. Or would it be cool to like go get a boating license? Like, yeah, I'd love to have a boating license, but I don't have time for that. And it's not something that is like high enough on my list that like I even want to consider that path. But yeah, there's so many cool things that one can do in this life. And when you look at it that way, it's a blessing, but it's also a curse, because you can't do it all. You can't do it all. But recently I went on 2 trips within Germany. So went to Frankfurt to see some friends, and yeah, that was great. They were going through a more stressful time, I think, having just moved to Germany. And so it's always fun like to see, this sounds horrible. It's fun to see how other people handle stress. And I just always these guys in particular, I always just admire, because yeah, it's a team effort and everything just gets done. And I can't imagine like moving somewhere and then you're moving all your furniture and you're trying to like set up a house, and then there's also like kids in the mix, so like they have needs and like need to go to daycare, like things like that. I'm like, whew, okay, my life is not that stressful, because if at any point I decide I don't want to do something, I can just cancel it and not go, and it's not the end of the world. But when you see people with like, especially kids, like responsibilities there, it's like, man, that's rough. And I think it's interesting to see those different, yeah, different viewpoints and things you have to prioritize. And yeah, that's a path, that's a fig, I guess, that they chose that I don't necessarily want for myself, but it's interesting to see. And then I also went to visit a friend's hometown in Deidesheim, which is outside of Mannheim in the German wine region. And so that was just absolutely lovely. Had so much local wine that was just absolutely wonderful. It's gorgeous there. It was just interesting too, because in Berlin, nobody speaks German, to me at least. And so I just don't really have opportunities to speak. And now it's not like woe is me, because honestly, my roommates would speak more German with me. Like they're really great. But it's like when we don't see each other that often, because we're all very busy people, like we just want to catch up, and like we already have an established friendship in English. And so sometimes it's hard when I just want to like chat with my friend who I haven't seen in 2 weeks because they've been traveling. And so I don't know, it's tough. But that was another thing. Like I thought to myself, like I should be learning German faster. I should be learning more, like learning more. I should be further along. Like you got your B1 certificate last year, and like now you're barely cracking into like B2 classes. And that's also a ridiculous thought, because there's no rush, there's no deadline that I have to hit. Like I don't need a certain level of German to, get a passport or anything. Like I already achieved that level for my permanent residency. And so now it's like anything that I'm learning is just what I decide I want to learn. And I do want to learn it. It's just, I guess there's learning it, and then there's guilting yourself about learning it. And I feel like I spend more time sometimes guilting myself or talking about like how I want to learn German than actually sitting down and learning German. But also that I don't know if that's true either because yeah, I spend roughly, well, I took 2 weeks off from classes, but I would say I average about 5 to 6 hours a week of German class. And so it's a lot and it's not an easy language. But when we were in like this small town that my friend grew up in, I was just thinking to myself, I was like, if I stayed here for like a month, I would learn a lot faster. And that's probably true. But then another friend brought up the point, like, yeah, but then you come back to Berlin and you won't use it anymore. And then you kind of go back to where you started. So learn it here, or don't. But then it made me think that sometimes we make up excuses. It's like, oh, my German would be so much better if I lived in a small town. And it's like, well, no, the grass is green where you water it. Your German would be a lot better if you asked all your German friends to only speak to you in German. And if I really put my foot down and only responded to people in German, like I am in Germany, I could be learning a lot faster. But that's the question of like, why? Why do you need to? I have friends, I have a life here that I love, and it's okay to learn slowly. And that's fine. It's just it's kind of something that I was thinking about. I guess I don't have a conclusion to that one. But I guess my point is that pressure is real, but a lot of it is self-invented. And that's something that I think is something I like about myself is that I do want to do things, but I need to remember that sometimes it's okay not to do them well in the context of things that I signed up for that I don't actually need to be doing. So going to German class twice a week, one week is fine. If I make it to the gym twice instead of 3 times, it's fine, like, it's just kind of an average over time, and everything will pull itself together in the end. But those are some of the things that I was thinking about lately, but very excited for some of the jobs that we're going to be talking to over the next few episodes, and excited that, yeah, I'm learning this new avenue of social media. Excited that it's resonating with people more than I expected it to. And yeah, I think it's cool the dialogue that it's opened, especially in cases where I didn't get it completely right or I didn't get something completely accurately. And I haven't been canceled yet on the internet, so nothing terrible's happened. But yeah, I guess if you're going to put yourself out there, it's interesting because when you're I guess if we think of people who are famous in like before the age of the internet, or not even famous, just like philosophers, like they get to write down their thoughts and philosophize, and then they're just talking to other people who are also of like probably equal intelligence to them, and like then they kind of develop those ideas, and there's no, I guess, sense of there's no tear down. It's kind of like if your ideas were seen by the right people, you get to go up, but like now it's like you have ideas, anyone can have ideas, and then if it gets shown to the wrong people, then comment the comment section alone could like take somebody out. It's important not to get discouraged, but also keep a little dose of reality. And so, yeah, all my friends are now making fun of me that I'm now an influencer, but I'm not. And that's the funniest thing too, is like in the grand scheme of things, the follower count on my social media is so low. Like 10K on TikTok is nothing. Like 2K on Instagram is nothing. But it's not nothing to me, I guess. And it's not, I don't know, nothing's a weird word. Again, I don't know how to describe it because I don't know these people. It's a weird phenomenon. And so I'm excited to explore it as time goes on. And I'm excited to see where this project takes me. And I am excited to continue finding a balance between work and life and all the weird stuff in between. So thank you for listening.